Okay, so it is about October the 14th, I think, and I'm realising this morning how important my solar dryer is to my sort of systems in the kitchen, and how I'm just constantly using it winter and summer, but right now there's a lot happening, so I thought I'd just show you what's happening in my solar dryer. So just recently I was lucky enough to be able to do a little barter deal with somebody who wanted to swap some karingo for some seeds. So I put the karingo here in the solar dryer and dried it, and it's nice and crunchy now, and so I'll pack it up and take it inside and put it in a I'm not sure what I'll put in a jar. I think I'll squash it into a jar so that it doesn't rehydrate rather than plastic, and that'll do me for the next year. And in here, this is a really interesting one. At this time of the year, like in a bio-intensive garden, we're trying to get our beds emptied so that we can plant them again as fast as possible. And what I find is that I often have coriander roots and even leek roots coming from the kitchen when I'm not, that I just don't need. I've got too many for the broth pot, and I've got celery and parsley. I've got parsley roots and celery roots. I've got all kinds of like extra. Parsley's going to seed in the garden at the moment, and the celery's going to seed, and I want to get it out, but I don't want to pull it out because it's still useful. So I just throw it all in here. So, well, I use a lot for broth, but the rest of it goes in here. All this here now that you can see is powder dry. I'll just take it out, put it on a sheet, crush it up and put it in a jar as a green powder, and it can be for the broth pot for the rest of the summer when I'm not growing the leeks and the coriander and celery and stuff, because it doesn't really like that season, even parsley over the summer. So yeah, so I'm getting a lot of extra use, and I'm saving a lot of really valuable nutrients that otherwise would probably end up in the compost heap. So you get more for the work that you put in and energy that you put in, get more out. And here, walnuts, which Bob cracked the other night, and we're just drying those. We soak them for about 3 or 4 days, which totally changes the taste and the texture and the flavour, and it takes the phytates out and tannins and other things which aren't good for us to eat, and we dry them and then we'll toast them, and they'll be an important part of our breakfasts. Yeah, so the solar dryer is a critical part of our kitchen, really. Okay, so it's just a few minutes later than the previous shot. So here I've harvested the karingo, and I've replaced that with a whole lot of parsley that was going to seed, which I'll turn into parsley powder for soup, some stock, some broths. And I've harvested all the mainly coriander and leek roots, and we had some beautiful celery plants, great big, really amazing, delicious, thick stalks, just more than we can eat. So I've just chopped it all up, thrown it in the solar dryer, and that will also turn into dried celery, which I can use in all kinds of ways. Over the summer, when I don't usually grow celery, it's much harder to grow it in the summer. Same with the parsley. Okay, so yesterday we were drying our celery and parsley, and that was still in the garden, and it was starting to go up to seed, and we needed the bed. So rather than wasting it and throwing it out, we dry it so we can use it over the summer before it goes to seed too much, because a lot of the goodness and the flavour and the sweetness goes up into the seeds once that starts happening. And here we have the same thing with the carrots and beetroot. So my new season's carrots and beetroot are well up and they're looking great, but they're not ready to eat yet. And I need this bed that was my last season's roots bed is now needed to plant corn in. So I've dug them up, what's left, and we're going to put them in clamps like this, beetroot and carrots. It's all the last of them, and we'll cover that with pumice. There's pumice underneath, put pumice on top. Just keep it cool on the shady side of the garden shed, and they'll keep us going in carrots and beetroot for the next few weeks until our new season's ones are ready.